Yo, what's good, y'all? You dub back here again, here in 2019. Let's get it. Bringing y'all more new, fresh content. Now, y'all know, if you know my channel, I cover all kinds of shit. I cover all kinds of fields. And obviously, I'm big into comics. Word. I don't read them as much as I can and whatnot. They can add up cost wise, but I do keep up with them. And shout out to Comics Explained for hooking a brother up and keeping up with House of X and Powers of X. I know Comic Historian gonna do his thing as well. But shout out to Comics Explained because, bro, you be helping a lot of us out here, bro, and you be saving us some money. I ain't gonna front with it. I am not gonna front with it. But you also be encouraging us to get into some of these lit ass series. Anyways, the thing about it is, House and Powers of X or Powers of 10, however the hell you want to say it, I've heard it both ways. Listen, bro, let me tell y'all something. This is X-Men writing. Remember, I did a video. You can go back and look. It was probably like 2 months ago at this point, maybe 3. But I did a video previously. I might drop it down in the description box below if I remember. I talked about the issues with X-Men. You know why the X-Men movies failed and or pretty much failed for the by and large. And to quickly recap that, the thing about it is people don't understand the X-Men story. All right. It's not about powers. It's not about abilities and oh my gosh, some dystopian future and no. The thing about the X-Men is this. They represent, in this case, mutants or Homo superior. They represent a group of people that's been persecuted, had prejudice, segregation, um, all that kind of stuff. And with them, that now we see it more in the external, but a different folk that has had this kind of discrimination put against them from a society that refuses, by and large, to accept them. And in fact, in this House of X and such, they even talked about it. Charles Xavier exposed, I believe it was in issue 6, where he's like, "Listen, bro, even pretty much the superheroes, everybody else, Fantastic Four hasn't come to their aid. The Avengers haven't come to their aid." It takes me back to there's this old Green Lantern comic, and there was this black man that says, "Listen, how he was talking to Green Lantern Hal Jordan. He says you will he called him out for questionable, potentially racist situation. He said you'll protect green people, blue people, purple people, but what about us black people?" And it hits home. The thing about the whole extremist and stuff, and I could get into my thoughts on the whole concepts themselves, but I'm gonna stick in this video to something as you see in the title. I had to set that backdrop. The thing about it is, Sal at Comic Pop, he was talking with Benny from Comic Story on they're starting up a new version of, I guess, what they call the weekly poll. I don't know the show, but it was on Comics Experiment, right? It was on that, and they drop it like pretty much every Saturday. And they were talking about this. He was talking about Hawks and Pox, House of X, Powers of 10, whatever. And he was saying that the X-Men were, the mutants were pretty much being a cult because you had some resurrection stuff going on because people were killed on a mission. There are 5 of the mutants. I think it was Wolverine, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Scott Summers, Wolverine, aka Logan, aka James Howell. I love saying his full name. Um, I think Nightcrawler, Kurt Wagner, and shoot, was it Iceman Bobby Drake? Was it? Who was the 5th one? But anyways, there were 5 of the mutants that got resurrected because of stuff. Go find out if you so desire. But anyways, Sal was saying he rocked with it, but he felt kind of nasty because in paraphrasing he felt uncomfortable. Okay, because it seemed that they were kind of cultish now. Now I love when other YouTubers, other entertainers, other media personalities give me material to work with. So now I can talk about political, social, sociological, psychological, philosophical discussions. Understand what House of X, specifically House of X, because Powers of X deals with future stuff as well, kind of, giving a background, foundation, and basis for why House of X is really going on. But the thing about it is, House of X is, it goes back to, I remember there was one speech that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he did in 1950, I want to say 5 or 6, maybe 7. It's been a minute. But anyways, he was talking about the birth of a nation. Okay, it was kind of a sermon, but more a speech. But he was talking about the birth of a nation. Go look it up on YouTube. It's a great, great one if you want to hear that. And there's been um, other essays and things written about this, right? I mean, shoot, you have the Declaration of Independence. You have other documents that have gone into great details. Phenomenal readings, especially if you're into historical narrative and in understanding these deeper issues and not superficial. But the thing about it is the birth of a nation, okay? And that's what you have here going with Charles Xavier, Professor X coming together with Magneto, coming together. I mean, you look at what they've done. It's beautiful. Jonathan Hickman. This is standing ovation level stuff, ladies and gents. This is genius. This is masterful writing. This is masterpiece stuff. When you're sending a statement without overtly sending a statement. This is stuff that Ishiro Oda does. This is stuff that Yoshihiro Togashi does. Many others that I can mention do. Right? Frank Herbert for the Dune series. Isaac Asimov, my favorite series in fiction history, does with the Foundation series. Doggone J.R.R. Tolkien, Silmarillion, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, C.S. Lewis with Chronicles of Narnia, and the list goes on and on, right? What Jonathan Hickman's doing is he's saying this is how societies come to be. Declaration of Independence. Listen to these words. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth a separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That the securities rights, governments, da 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 da. I always quote that. I love that quote. I love so much about those quotes because it tells the truth. Charles Xavier, Moira Taggart, Magneto, they all realize. Now, Magneto tried it a couple times. I believe it was Genosha. Then I think you had the E for Extinction situation where 16 million, mutants were eradicated. I think it was Utopia or whatever the asteroid, whatever the hell it was called, right? They've tried to do this. I know Scott Summers, Cyclops tried something off the coast of San Francisco. Now, that might have been Utopia. I forget. X-Men history is crazy. The thing is, Krakoa, this living island, right? They're settling there. They said all mutants are come. No matter your age, 1 to 13, you can come. They've asked for Franklin Richards, the son of, you know, Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards and Susan Storm Richards, the Invisible Woman, formerly Invisible Girl. They can say, bring him. Every mutant on the world, regardless of what your beef is. Now, we'll deal with you. And they set up laws as well. They set up a government. They have the Secret Council of 12. That's what I'll call it, right? Closed Council, whatever the hell it's called. Y'all get the point. They're setting up everything for society. All right. I say I can go more in depth with this, but and I'm going to edge. I'm setting everything up so that you understand why and my answer finally for this question. They're setting up, the foundation, and the foundations of any society should be two things: family and community. You set up from there. If you don't have those foundations, your society is going to crumble. It's either not going to last long or it's going to deteriorate. That's what they're doing. They're setting up family and community. This whole family environment and community environment. They say, listen, we may have beef with you, but Apocalypse, you cool. You get in here. Mr. Sinister, you in here. Mystique, you in here. Crossing all lines, ecstasy. We don't matter if we beefed. We squashing all beefs. You are our brother. You are our sister. We are one. If you watch Avatar, And I mean the one with the blue aliens, which I love that movie, by the way. That's what I'm talking about, kind of stuff here. We're all one. We're a tribe. Doesn't matter your background. Now, if you do some dirt, Saber-tooth Victor Creed, we're gonna lay the smack down on your ass. But other than that, you are welcome. Amnesty and they're dealing. They said, listen, United Nations, you're going to respect us as a sovereign entity. They have an economic factor with the pharmaceutical. They're building up an infrastructure. They have powerful mutants. They said protect Omega level mutants. They have a military force if necessary, and they got one of the most powerful on the planet, fam. Because let me tell y'all, mutant kind ain't nothing to fuck with. Mutant kind is about their life. I had to put that out there. You got some of the most powerful people on the planet. And you got some of the most capable. And guys like Wolverine. Come on now. Y'all know what I'm talking about here. And so you have all of this, right? And of course, with societies come spirituality. Now, a lot of people go religion. Here's the thing, man. You may have heard the old saying, there are no atheists in foxholes. Now, someone will counter like, wait, didn't a lot of agnostics and atheists come out of the world wars and battlefields and stuff? Yeah, that's the aftermath of a bunch of stuff that they witnessed. But the thing about it is, if you've ever been in a struggle, for those who say, there's no God, for those who throw it out that, look, I'm respect all your views. You can have your views. There's no divine, no, okay, you respect. But the thing is, how many of y'all really been in a struggle? I have. I could start detailing stuff about my life to know I've been in a struggle. I've really been in a struggle. And those of you who don't have faith in spirituality, let me tell y'all something. If you're out on the streets, if you're impoverished, if you're you're just hanging on to a minute. No. Something higher, something outside of you. You get humbled. Nature, life humbles you. And I've said this, there are only atheists and comfortable. If you're in a modern society allows for complacency, apathy, and comfort. Antiquity, you didn't have that. Third world nations, you don't have that. War, you don't have that. You involuntarily homeless, you don't have that. If you can, you ever notice how a lot of really, really wealthy people are still spiritual? You ever notice that? I don't mean rich. I mean very wealthy people, because a lot of them been through the struggle and been through the ringers and knew they couldn't just have gotten it on their own. You see what I'm saying? So that whole thing about are mutants, are the X-Men a cult? No, they're not a cult. I can understand where Sal's coming from, because for religions are evolved cults, and that's a whole other thing, and then I'll have to address at some point potentially what actually a cult actually is. But the fact that there were spiritual ceremonies, and Storm being a kind of shamaness kind of leader, shamanistic priestess kind of leader, makes perfect sense because of who she is. But it makes sense that there's this spirituality along with it because of who mutant kind is. See what I'm saying? Um, I just view it from my perspective, that the X-Men, they've been through a lot. And for a group of people that have been through as much as the X-Men have, and if you really look at it in a short amount of time, based on the chronology that was presented by Jonathan Hickman, they've been through the ringers. And for them to have this spiritual, rebirth, and pretty much have a sanctity of life, and that's kind of what their rules are based on, the sanctity of life. For them, or their laws, their laws are, life itself is kind of a spiritual experience. So to have that, it makes sense that it's presented like that. But it's only viewed cultic, and this shows me that this is what happens when people don't understand where you're coming from, don't understand your perspective, your viewpoint. They will project, and it will make them uncomfortable, because anytime you do something radical, anytime you do something out of the norm, you're doing something they don't know how to process. This is different. And I'm not taking shots at the man. I'm glad he brought this up, because I'm pretty sure he's not the only one that was taken aback by, whoa. because it's not the way societally that Western civilization, that modern American predominant mainstream culture says. It says you stay put, you do the, and especially being an X-Men, but it's also not out of the blue. The X-Men's evolution has been towards this. Remember, they started off battling with Magneto and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants way back in the 60s. But as time's gone on, Wolverine, you see, you see the uncanny X-Men, and then you see Cyclops and what he's become, and what Charles Xavier become. People like, it's just dude, it's the natural evolution, it's the organic evolution. They were trying to befriend humanity. Even Charles Xavier, he's like, wait. Before I would have given you me free, I tried to be brothers, but y'all obviously have just been like, bro, we don't want y'all. So deuces to y'all. If y'all don't, we'll peacefully coexist, but you leave us the hell alone. They're doing a necessary isolationist policy, and that's what nations usually go through. Very rarely do you have a nation that has an open line of communication starting off. Very, very rarely do you have this happen. Usually they start off isolationist first and then they build things up once there's that kind of relationship globally or regionally, whatever the case may be. So that's what you're having here. But like I said, this I could have easily answered the question and said no, but I wanted to address a lot of the stuff that these stories have been bringing up to us, and it'll be very interesting to see what Dawn of X and where they go from this with the X-Men. Because to me, this is a long time coming. Marvel, I mean, they're doing it with Venom. They're doing it with the Immortal Hulk. They're doing it with a lot of what they're bringing to the table. Y'all should have been done this, Marvel. Thank you. Thank you. And maybe this is just the right time. Maybe these stories wouldn't have been hard hitting in the 90s and the 2000s. But now in the 2020s, we need this kind of conversation. Because this is actually what's going on. Some people believe in secession. Some people, I'm an anarchist. Other people have different views, libertarian, minarchist, all kinds of views. And a lot of people are looking at independence. A lot of people are looking to break away from these governmental structures that are archaic, that are eroding right before our eyes, that have been in decline for decades now. So what Jonathan Hickman is doing, I gotta get him, clap it up. I mean, you can usually only establish writers, which he is, have the balls, or have unless they're just like some of these cats back in the 80s that just went for it. But to instead of just writing another ho hum, mediocre, oh, it's just another bad guy, but writing mature, advanced storytelling that is realistic and relatable. Jonathan Hickman, bro, sir. This is storytelling at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. Unexpected one to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me your thoughts on this subject matter. I know this is deep diving and deep hitting, but this is what it is with me. This is what you gonna get from me, especially moving forward. All right, y'all. Have a beautiful day, beautiful night. Peace. And please do tell me your thoughts on House of X and Powers of X if you know about it.